That too.
Would that be all right? If the middle section goes a little longer, since we'll have Dr. White in there. Okay, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
okay,
that works too.
Great. He was agreeing with everything.
Excellent.
Hi, and welcome to Coping During the COVID Crisis. I'm Janet Gross. Living in COVID mode for more than a year has taken a toll on all of us. No one is immune or protected from that. So many changes in our lives, some fear, much loss, we're all affected. And it's not over yet, of course. So as we look forward to that time when it is over, we probably still have to deal with anxiety and even hopelessness in this different world. So today, Dr. Roy Salgado, professor of counseling at the University of Holy Cross, is here to talk about how to hold on to or find positivity and hope. And I'm assuming that perspective plays a big part in this.
It plays a huge part in this. It's important that we maintain faith and hope. We have experienced a very challenging year, again, death and illness and job loss, an interruption in education, so many different things that have happened, an interruption in the supply chain from time to time. And so there's just so many different things. But in spite of all of that, it is important for us to maintain hope, for us to project into some future that is positive, to impact the way we think, to restructure our thought. It's easy to get caught up with, people are getting sick. Numbers go up, numbers go down. I know someone who's been infected. I know someone who tested positive. I know someone who passed away. I know someone who's lost her job and has now all these bills that are mounting, all of these different things that, sure, that's real. Mm-hmm. No one can deny that COVID is real. No one can deny that people get infected. No one can deny that people get sick. And there's reason to maintain hope. Fortunately, right now, we're at a point in the COVID history, if you will, where we do see glimmers of hope. We see it. People are becoming vaccinated. More and more people have gotten their first shot. Many have gotten both shots. Businesses are opening up. The state of Louisiana has moved into a new phase. And so there's reason for hope. And so it's important that we look at that as well.
And there's always reason for hope, even in anything, because you're still here. You're still, you still have life and breath, and if you don't look at the positives, negativity will overwhelm you. Absolutely. And suck you down into that hole.
Absolutely. I tell my wife all the time. I say, the world may be falling down around us, but we're good. We're here in our backyard, and we're able to enjoy our nice little garden and our nice tree and our family. We're good. Everything is happening. Yes, COVID is still there. We still need to keep our 6 feet of distance. We still need to wash our hands and wear our masks. And when it's time to get the vaccine. All of those different things are still things that we need to perhaps do. That being said, there's hope. There's good things going on in our lives as well.
And you mentioned faith. And if for people of faith, it's not about this world.
Absolutely.
So we have things to do in this world.
Right.
And one of them is not being negative.
Absolutely.
To be helpful and help
Viktor
others.
Frankl was a famous psychiatrist, and I believe that I have alluded to him in previous episodes, but he was an eminent psychiatrist, a scientist, and he was in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. And even then, he didn't put his scientific mind, his psychiatric studies aside. He looked to see what was the difference among those individuals who were able to survive and get through in spite of horrific circumstances versus those who quickly died within the concentration camps. And what he saw was that those who thrived in spite of no water, in spite of no food, in spite of beatings, in the most horrific conditions, knowing that one day they would perhaps be put to death, but those who survived, those who thrived, the difference was they had hope in something outside of themselves. something beyond their circumstance. And so here we are. We are in this very difficult situation. It's been a dark, difficult, challenging year. That being said, restructuring our thinking, replacing those negative thoughts with positive ones, a future with hope, really can get us through in ways that would seem unfathomable and not possible, but it is. Faith and hope, we incorporate that into our thinking, into our mindset, it gets us through.
You know, you were mentioning the author who wrote, Corrie ten Boom wrote a book about living in a concentration, and one of the things that she mentioned over and over was thankfulness. And and you imagine how to build that up in yourself in those kinds of situations.
Right.
They prayed and thanked God for fleas because it kept the guards away.
Right.
Because the guards didn't want to come in that much when they were all just flea infested.
Right.
So they had moments of privacy because of fleas. I mean,
and think about that.
Twisting in your brain. Yeah.
Reframing it,
Yes, reframing.
restructuring it, where you see something that typically would not be positive, something that you would typically view as a negative, reframing it so that it is positive, and changing the thought, where the dominant thought, instead of the dominant thought being one of negativity, the dominant thought is now reframed and restructured into one of positivity, and how that elicits hope and good things for the future. You know, so it's a wonderful example of what we can do. You know, yes, we've lost loved ones in our community and in our families. Yes, we've had people who have been deathly ill and very sick. Yes, we've lost so much. And we've come closer together. We've spent more time with one another. We've been able to really see, I think our current generation, we really haven't gone through too many challenges, perhaps. In the New Orleans area, we've experienced Katrina and things of that nature. But in terms of challenging things, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. And so this is a learning opportunity. There's so many things that we perhaps have learned about ourselves as individuals and as members of a community and as a world through this experience, and taking that as an opportunity to grow.
Right, and you mentioned world because it is happening to everyone.
Right.
So it's not like you feel, oh, it's just happening to us. Yeah. No, it's happening to everyone.
Everyone. There's no one that has not been impacted by this. We've all been impacted by this as a human race.
So as we look at this, sometimes when you can't, you're having a bad time, or some hopelessness falls in and you really need somebody to talk to. I'm leading into the service that the University of Holy Cross and Mary Knights have provided.
Yes, it has been spectacular, and the amount of work that the counselors in training have been able to do at the University of Holy Cross over the course of the past year has been phenomenal. The Maronites of Holy Cross over the course of the past year have been offering free telehealth counseling services to the residents of Louisiana. And all you have to do is call in to the number that you see on the screen, and the administrative assistant would take that call, direct it to the clinical director of the Thomas E. Chambers Counseling and Training Center, and then he would assign it to a counselor in training, and you get free counseling as long as you would need.
And these are counselors in training, but they have experience.
They have experience.
Especially now.
Especially now, yes. These are master's level and doctoral level students who have had the requisite coursework and now are in the final phase of their training, in the clinical training. And they have all of the skills and techniques and tools necessary under the appropriate supervision of faculty like myself and the other faculty members to guide them through their training and through the service. And it is a wonderful, top-notch service that the residents of Louisiana have access to for free throughout the duration of this situation.
That's fantastic. All right, we're going to talk more about that. And when we come back, more practical ideas of holding on to faith, hope, and positivity. Stay with us. Welcome back. As we talk about holding on to hope and a positive attitude to help us through the pandemic, we've asked Dr. Ryan White, director of the Thomas E. Chambers Counseling Center at the University of Holy Cross, to join us. Dr. White, let's talk a little bit more about how a good or positive attitude can really change things. And I'm talking here about both mentally and physically, right?
Well, of course. I mean, there is a link between thought and biology. How you think about things, how you feel about things is going to affect your physical health and vice versa. And it is important during, these very stressful and uncertain times to keep that positive outlook so that you can stay in the best shape possible to do the things that you need to do to navigate it as successfully as you can.
Being healthy certainly improves your attitude about yourself and then life. So I guess that all kind of hand in hand. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do counselors help people when they get depressed or become anxious about things like this, when they lose hope? How can counselors help?
Well, there are a variety of approaches, of course, depending on the person and what it is they're going through and what coping strategies have worked for them in the past. But very generally speaking, one way is to take a cognitive behavioral approach to it, sort of mastery of one's own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, helping the client realize the things that are in their control, the things that they can make decisions and make actions to improve. And that in itself, even if it's a small thing at first, even if it's very incremental, helps build hope, because there's that realization that it's not just that all of these things are going to happen to you and it's outside of your control. You can be very careful and very intentional about how you look at things, how you think about things, and how you choose to respond to things.
Fear of being out of control is a huge, depressant, I guess. If you are afraid that you can't control anything, that's got to really weigh you down.
It feeds on itself. Anxiety and depression can feed on themselves. If you get to a point where you feel overburdened and there is a loss of hope and a loss of control, they build and they get stronger and they get even more difficult to successfully overcome. That's why it's important to, even if it's small things at first, chip away at them and realize that it is within your ability to improve your situation, improve how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally.
So what would this look like in a session? How would counselors approach, the counselors at the University of Holy Cross, how would they approach this?
Well, again, one of the main ways that works pretty consistently across large populations of clients is to take a very cognitive behavioral approach and look very carefully at different kinds of thoughts and how they arise and which thoughts the client is having that are helpful and which ones are harmful, and how to minimize the harmful ones and strengthen or emphasize the helpful ones. But you can also just take a straight behavioral approach where the client can, again, look at their day, look at their week, whatever the manageable chunk is for them, and realize the things that they need to do, the things that they can do, and what would be beneficial to them. And the counselor can help the client notice and realize the things that they're doing over the course of a week, over the course of a day, that are improving their situation, that are things that they did to make their circumstances better. And you can do that through behavioral journaling or just conversations with your counselor about how your days and weeks are going and how you're responding to different challenges.
So does this put, like, depression, anxiety, all these hopelessness, does it really put blinders on you? Is that what's happening? And so you're helping people to see what's real?
That's a way of looking at it. It's an additional perspective. When you are mired in nearly overwhelming anxiety and depression, it affects how you think. It affects how you feel. And so, again, it can get to a point where it sort of feeds on itself, where you're unintentionally perpetuating that state of anxiety or depression because, as you put it, blinders on you and how you're looking at things and the options that you think are available to you. And the counselor can come in and help reorient that perspective and look at things differently.
And with that, we're walking around, all of us are walking around with the presumption that everyone is infected with COVID, right? Mm-hmm. That's the presumption. And we are to walk around in that way to keep ourselves safe, right? To maintain that 6 feet of distance, to wash our hands, to wear the mask, and walk around with the presumption that the person that is within your proximity is sick. People are getting vaccinated. That's a good thing. People have had their first vaccine, others have had both. That's a good thing. And then there's people that are waiting their turns. Like, oh, it hasn't been my turn yet. So one of the things that's coming up is, oh, they get to go around and do more of this, and they get to be around other people, and we still have to wait. So that thinking, that negative thinking, it's okay. Yes, those things are true. People have gotten their second vaccine, and so now they're taking more risks. They're going out there. They're doing more things that they couldn't have done before. Everyone eventually who wants to get the vaccine will get it in time. You wait your turn, and you just simply continue to keep the measures in place to keep yourself safe. Right now, you are COVID-free. Right now, you are healthy. Right now, you're not infected. Right now, you can continue to keep your distance. You can continue to wash your hands, and you kind of just reframe it, because there's some negativity that can come in with regard to this situation in terms of, well, why me? And why not this? And why this? Things over which we have no control. We have no control over the rollout of vaccinations. We have no control over the order of which people are now eligible to be vaccinated. And so we reframe it so that people can kind of just take a breath, take it back, and not begrudge those who have gotten it already, if you will, and just kind of sit back and wait and enjoy the moments that you do have. You're healthy, you're safe. You've been able to maintain that distance for a year. You can do it for a little while longer and move forward.
And there's got to be a balance, I guess, Dr. White, in watching or keeping up with what's on the news and the variants and the numbers going up in some states, not in others. So I guess there's a balance between the respect of the virus and fear of being in the world.
Yeah, if you go too far in either direction, that's going to be problematic. If you completely ignore the reality of the current situation, that's just going to open you and other people to harm. But if you immerse yourself in all of the information that's out there, some of which is true, some of which is not, some of which is meaningful to you, some of which isn't, then that too can build to that feeling of hopelessness. It can make it all seem excessively large. It can make it seem less like a temporary state of affairs and more like something with weight and permanence that you can't possibly affect. It can almost become obsessive in a way, that chasing of the information that's out there. And the counselor can help the client to realize that maybe the approach that they're taking to keeping themselves informed swings too far in one direction or the other to be helpful and healthy for them.
And it's got to be a difficult task for everyone because COVID has been such a moving target that we really can't put an endpoint on it yet. Mm-hmm. So you are living in a world of not knowing.
But part of it is acknowledging that even if we can't put the endpoint on it yet, there is an endpoint. There are changes that have occurred. In many respects, things are better now than they were previously. I mean, just now it was mentioned about how people are starting to get vaccinated. That should be, if you look at it both on a societal level and also for you personally, hope inspiring to know that there are changes that are being made and we are approaching that endpoint wherever it may be. And so rather than worry about where the endpoint is, be mindful of the present. What are your circumstances now? What are your needs now? What are the options available to you now? And again, kind of empowering the client to realize that if they are mindful of those things, they can make the decisions that will keep them healthy.
Right. And really, who can't benefit from somebody just saying, let me help you think about this differently?
Right.
So that's where this counseling is just.
Right now, you are healthy and safe. Mm-hmm. Right now, you do not have COVID. We can keep it that way.
Okay. All right, Dr. White, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate it when you're here with your advice and knowledge, so thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
But you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a course online.
You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Although more and more people are being vaccinated and we have seen positive moves that may return us to a more normal life, a lot of us still see these as challenging times. So how can counseling help us train our brains and faith help us focus our hearts to embrace a positive attitude? Dr. Roy, we've been talking about, the techniques and things that maybe counselors can help us with, or people who are just, getting advice from, us or their friends or their family. How do you settle it down? How do you live in the moment? How do you?
Well, it's important to catch yourself. Oftentimes we're not even aware of the self-talk, of the language that we use in our head and out loud. We might use words like don't, not, never, I don't, I can't, I this. We're not aware to the degree that we incorporate negative thinking in our thought and in our speech. It's important to become aware of it, first of all, and to catch yourself. And when you catch yourself speaking in a negative way or thinking in a negative way, to stop. It's called stop. Talk. It's called thought stop. And so you stop the thought, you catch yourself, and then you reframe it. And then you flip it on its head with a positive thought, and you install a new thought. And so there's an installation process where you have a new dominant thought. Because if you are constantly thinking negatively, COVID is looming around every corner. People are continually getting sick. There are variants. We may see that we're overcoming this initial strain, but now there's other strains from other parts of the world, and they're peaking in this part of the country, and they're peaking in this part of the state, and they're peaking over here. All of those things are true. All of those things are true. We're not negating that those things are not true. Those thoughts are overwhelming. Those thoughts are burdensome, and they're negative. They're true, but they're not helpful. What's also true is people are getting vaccinated. And we're finding out that the vaccinations appear to be effective in some of these other strains as well. So that's promising. And so becoming informed and replacing those negative thoughts, if you have that tendency of saying, oh, there are these variants coming up that are really scary, you can inform yourself and flip it on its head. And we're finding out that these vaccinations appear to be effective with these second and third. Maybe not every single one, because we're hearing that there's some that they're not effective to. But let's not focus on that.
That's right.
Let's focus on the fact that it appears to be effective in some of the other variants. And fortunately for us, it appears that it might be effective in some of the variants that are here in the Louisiana area. And to just constantly tell yourself that. If your mind is going down here towards the negative, pull yourself out and up into the positive.
So this is the way you can help yourself. Because let me tell you what, that train that runs around in your head with those negative thoughts, just, it can load up a lot of things that aren't true either.
Right.
That are running around your head.
And it's incessant. And we do that. And we tend to go into that negative space. If we have a bowl of soup with the noodles and the chicken and the broth and the carrots and the celery and all of the potatoes, all the vegetables, and then there's a hair in there. And we're focusing on that hair. Okay, that hair is there, but you can take it out and you have all this wonderful, nutritious, beautiful ingredients in this soup. Enjoy that. And what we tend to do is we tend to focus on that hair. We tend to focus on the variants that are coming up. Yet we have all these other wonderful things. We have these vaccinations that are becoming more and more available. We have all sorts of things to look forward to.
So when you hear in your brain or even coming out, I hate, I can't, all those things.
Stop yourself.
Stop it and turn it to love, or I can, or this is good, or look at how beautiful this is.
Right, right. If you catch yourself with that, I don't, never, not, stop yourself and replace it with the opposite, with a new thought, with a positive thought. Install a new thought. And then your thinking and your speech becomes your reality.
So if you, okay, I've heard this, if you can't stop it, if you keep coming back, write it down and say, okay, I'm going to deal with this in a couple of hours or tomorrow or something, and then reread it.
Yes, absolutely.
And then,
because what's happening there is you have different senses. You have the visual, you have the speech, so the auditory, you're hearing it, and then with your tongue, it's tactile. That's another sense. So you're incorporating as many senses as possible to install and ingrain a new thought.
Okay. So even if you are worried about something, you're thinking about something, you're anxious, you're hopeless, you're depressed about something, if you write it down, it might not look so bad. You could put it aside for right now,
Right.
and you look at it and go, what? That didn't happen.
And our thinking becomes our reality. You know, a little quick example that I give is, you know, in the past, if I've gone for a run, I might run without thinking a 12-minute mile. And maybe my thought is thinking, oh, I got this bill to pay, I got this meeting to tend to, I have this thing to do. And so if I'm going for that run and I'm thinking, and that first mile is 12 minutes long, but then I'm like, no, let me change my thinking. Let me just say, I'm strong and I'm fast, I'm strong and I'm fast, I'm strong and I'm fast. And I'm installing that thought and put all the other stuff aside. I now run a 9-minute mile. I've taken 3 minutes off of my run. My physiology hasn't changed in that 30 seconds from changing from mile 1 to mile 2, but my thinking has changed. And then as a result, my reality has changed. Instead of running a 12-minute mile, I run a 9-minute mile. And so our thoughts are immediately powerful. And it's important that we really get into that practice of engaging in positive psychology, positive thinking, and intentionally replacing a negative dominant thought with a positive dominant thought.
Okay. You know, before this, we're getting to the end of the show, but I wanted to talk about the University of Holy Cross and for college students everywhere, really, to think about some things. And I know that you got the in. So
Yes, yes. You know, the University of Holy Cross is a wonderful institution, and we have so many wonderful programs. We have over 65 programs of study that students can enroll in. And currently, we are also offering dual enrollment programs. We are making our programs of study available to high school juniors and seniors. And so if there are high school juniors and seniors that are interested in double dipping and getting course credit not only for their high school curriculum, but also to start to work and double dip and have some of that college credit start to be earned while you're in high school, call the University of Holy Cross, look up the website and see what classes you might be interested in. And it is at a significantly reduced fee. You know, we all know that college is expensive and it gets more and more expensive. The University of Holy Cross is offering a phenomenal reduction in rate for high school students to take courses. And you can theoretically knock out a semester's worth, a year's worth, maybe even an entire associate's degree's worth of courses at a reduction of the cost before you even step foot onto a college campus into your freshman year, and knock out a significant percentage by reducing your ultimate fee, because college is expensive.
Yeah.
And so I encourage high school juniors and seniors to look us up and go and see what might be of interest to you and start taking some classes.
Perfect. It helps with time management too when you get to college. I know.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's, any final tips before we...
You know, just a final tips. We need to continue to follow the CDC guidelines. You know, wash our hands, maintain the 6 feet of distance, wear the mask. If you are eligible to get the vaccination and you are wanting to do so, go ahead and do that. Pay attention to your thoughts. You know, catch yourself in that negative thinking. Pay attention to your language. Catch yourself in that negative language. Flip it on its head, reframe it, and accentuate the positive, because that's what's going to get us through and give us the faith and hope to be able to move and continue through this situation that we find ourselves in.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. Roy Salgado, and your colleagues at the University of Holy Cross for joining us. And thank you for watching. We want to help as we are all coping during the COVID crisis.